Hi everyone, it's me again. Today here at Blue Willow Mercantile, I'm going to work on the September Pillow of the Month Club from Riley Blake. You should be receiving this pillow in the mail shortly if you haven't already. This one is super fun. It has 4 different apples on it for the fall. We're going to use a lot of the same techniques that we used in last month's. Riley Blake calls it flipping and stitching, I think. Sew and flip method. Basically what we're doing is we're adding little corner squares on to rectangles. So let me show you how I did that. I've cut all my rectangles. So here you'll notice I'm making the green apple. And what I need to do is I need to create this little dimple here. So to do that, I take the 1-inch white square that you're cutting, take my air erase or mechanical pencil, something that won't show through too much, or if it does show through, it's going to disappear like this air erase, since it is white fabric. I'm going to take this and I am going to put it down in my lower right hand corner for this one. I'm going to put on a couple of things before I go to the machine, just because I like to save time pinning and then going to the machine. So that's going to create my dimple down here. I've also left my other corner, upper corner, for you to see. Again, I'm taking my air erase marker, I'm taking my 2-inch square, and I'm simply drawing that diagonal line across it. You'll notice I have diagonal squares going all 4 corners, so I just have to make sure that I get the orientation correct for this. In this case, my diagonal is going from the right upper corner to the left lower corner. Now I need my stem and my leaf portion. So I'm taking my 1-inch squares again, one from brown and one from green, drawing that diagonal line. Because as I'm looking at my pattern, this is the left side of my apple. I need to make sure that I put my green square on the left side of the apple. Again, watch the orientation of that diagonal. And I'm going to take my brown one, which is the continuation of my stem, into my apple. And I'm going to put that on the opposite. Then I'm going to just set those on my machine, and I'm going to show you the next thing I do. I'm going to make the leaf. You'll notice I already put 1 corner square onto my leaf. I'm going to take my other corner square and put it on the other corner. So again, I'm taking my air erase marker or a mechanical pencil. Just make sure if you're using a mechanical pencil that you don't draw your line too dark. You don't want it to show through. Take that, put it in your opposite corner, so that we're creating this leaf-like item here. You'll notice this is how I do sewing at home. I get all my pieces ready, and then I just cruise as I'm sewing. Now I need to create my stem. Same process again. Take my 1-inch square, draw that diagonal line. Something that you should be thoughtful of is you are using a tone-on-tone fabric. So make sure that you have that flipped in the right direction. I would hate for you to sew your little piece on with the wrong side of your fabric up. All right, now let me go over to my machine, and all I'm going to do is I am going to sew either to the right or the left of that line. If you remember from last month's video, I taught you that if we are flipping the corner to the left, we want to sew on the left side of the line. So that's what I'm going to do for this stem part. You'll notice I still have my 57D foot on here. Is it the best foot for this? Probably not. I forgot to change it before I started the video. I would probably choose a 1D or a 20D, but I can make the 57D work. Now on this next one for my leaf, I'm flipping it to the right. So I'm gonna sew to the right side of that line that I drew. Again, for my green little leaf portion that's going on my apple, I'm flipping it up to the right, so I am sewing to the right of the line. See how I just kind of chain piece those all together? I like doing that for a couple of reasons. It goes quicker and I don't waste as much thread. So now all I have to do is cut those little chains apart. There are some great little notions out there now that will help you with this process. There's one that uses your old rotary blades. It sits in a stand, kind of looks like a flower. We have it on our website. You just pull it right over it and it cuts your thread for you. So let's just finish these blocks up. I have one more little corner to sew, and then we're done. If you choose to do chain piecing like I'm showing you here, Berninas are great. They allow you to sew about 3 or 4 stitches without fabric. Try not to sew more than that, or you might end up with a little nest underneath your machine. So again, we're gonna take our iron, we're gonna set our seam, and we're gonna flip our corners up. We're gonna do that to all of our blocks, and then we're gonna go through and we're gonna trim all of our blocks at the same time. Just one way to save a little time, save a little walking from one station in our sewing room to the next. All right, now that we have those done, we're gonna move our pressing stuff out of the way. We're gonna take our ruler and our rotary cutter, and we are going to trim those to a 1/4 inch seam. Those little scraps, I wouldn't try sewing a 1/2 square triangle of. They're way too small. All right, so let's pretend that I've trimmed all of my pieces for my apple here. You'll see I have my leaf, I have my stem, here's my apple. What I need to do next is I need to sew my stem to my white square, and I need to sew this little white piece onto my leaf. That will complete my apple. And when I go to sew these together, so that I end up with really nice matching triangles, I want to be sure, I don't know if you can see this, but I want to be sure that my corners are perfectly even where that diagonal starts. And I like to put a pin there to hold it in place. You're going to have to do that on both ends of this block because both ends of your block have those small little corners. Okay? That will help it so that when we sew, they come out with a nice triangle here. You're going to want to also be very careful when you go to sew these onto your apple that you match up this seam here. So it looks like it's one continuous stem, one continuous leaf. Let's pretend we've done that, because again, you don't need to see me sew. You are very good at sewing 1/4 inch seams by now. I have to take my long skinny piece and sew it onto my apple and leaf section. Remember, once my 1/4 inch seams are taken into consideration, this will all fit nicely. Then you're going to sew your top and middle and bottom whites on. It then gives us skinny red and skinny green. I believe they tell us for the inner borders, our side borders should measure 17.5 inches and our top and bottom should measure 18.5. So they want us to do our sides and then our top and bottom. Typically when we quilt, that's how we do it too. Remember, just going to throw this in here as a little added tip. If you're not sure that you're getting a nice 1/4 inch seam, so you're not sure that your measurements will be correct, don't cut these until you have your center of your pillow made. Then, just like when you measure for a quilt for your borders, measure the top, measure the middle, and measure the bottom. Take the average of all three. What do I mean by that? 17.5 inches. Let's say this is 17 3/8 and this is 17.5. Cut them to be 17.5 inches. Okay? You would do the same thing with your sides. So whichever one you're doing first. In this case, I should measure my sides first. Measure the left side, the center, and the right side. If your amounts vary, take the average and then cut your side borders to be that amount. That allows you to ease in any excess that you might have. It prevents those wavy borders on quilts that you might get. Hope you enjoy making your September pillow. See you again next month.